Let me ask you something. Have you ever checked your bank account and genuinely wondered, where did all my money go? Not because you bought a new car. Not because you booked a luxury vacation. Not because you made some huge financial mistake. Yet somehow, month after month, you reach the end of your paycheck wondering why there's never as much money left as you expected. And after a while, a dangerous thought starts creeping in. Maybe I'm just bad with money. Maybe everyone else understands something I don't. Maybe I'll never get this right. And that feeling is exhausting. It's frustrating. And worst of all, it's usually unnecessary. Because what if that's not true? What if the reason money feels difficult isn't because you're bad with it, but because nobody ever taught you how it works in the first place? Think about that for a second. For one of the most important parts of adult life, most people receive almost no practical education. Nobody sits you down and explains budgeting. Nobody teaches you how to build savings. Nobody shows you how to stop living in constant financial stress. And until you understand that, managing money will always feel harder than it needs to. Today we're going to change that. Because by the end of this video you'll understand the biggest reason most people struggle financially, and a simple system you can start using immediately to take back control. And trust me, the solution is much simpler than most people think. Welcome to the Capital Beacon. If this is your first time here, welcome. You found the right place. This is the channel for people who were never properly taught how money works. No complicated financial jargon. No unrealistic advice. No pretending that skipping one coffee will magically make you wealthy. Just simple, practical strategies that help real people build better financial lives. Because here's the truth. Most people don't need more information. They need clarity. And today, we're starting at the very beginning. Here's something that doesn't get said enough. Most people struggling with money are not irresponsible. They're not lazy. They're not bad with numbers. They're simply trying to play a game without knowing the rules. Imagine someone handed you the keys to a car. They tell you to drive. But nobody teaches you how the steering wheel works. Nobody explains the pedals. Nobody shows you what the road signs mean. Would anyone expect you to become a great driver? Of course not. Yet that's exactly what happens with money. You receive your first paycheck, open your first bank account, pay your first bills, and suddenly, you're expected to know exactly what you're doing. When things go wrong, people often blame themselves. But the reality is much simpler. For whatever reason, personal finance was never a major part of most people's education. Many parents were never taught either. Which means millions of people enter adulthood trying to figure everything out through trial and error. And unfortunately, financial mistakes can be expensive. But here's the good news. You don't need a finance degree. You don't need to become an investing expert. And you definitely don't need to memorize complicated financial terms. You only need to understand a few key principles. And the first one changes everything. In fact, the second principle might surprise you, because it has nothing to do with earning more money. We'll get to that shortly. But first, let's talk about the principle that changes everything. If you remember only one thing from this entire video, remember this. You cannot improve what you do not measure. Most people think they know where their money goes, but they don't. They know where they hope it goes. And that's a very different thing. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone earning a decent income. Not rich, not struggling, just average. Yet every month feels stressful. Every unexpected expense feels like a crisis. They constantly feel broke. One day they decide to review their spending. Not to judge themselves. Not to shame themselves. Just to look. And what do they find? Streaming subscriptions they forgot existed. Food deliveries they barely remember ordering. Small online purchases made out of boredom. Tiny expenses that felt harmless in the moment. $5 here. $10 there. $15 somewhere else. Nothing looked significant by itself. But together, those small purchases were quietly draining hundreds every month. And that's when something interesting happens. Not guilt. Not shame. Awareness. Because awareness creates options. And options create change. Most people avoid looking at their finances because they're afraid of what they'll find. But the truth is, the moment you look is the moment your financial situation begins improving. Not because your bank account magically grows, but because you finally know what's actually happening. And in a moment, I'm going to show you a simple framework that can organize everything. But first, there's one mistake almost everyone makes when they decide to improve their finances. Here's where most people go wrong. When people decide to get serious about money, they try to change everything at once. They create complicated spreadsheets, download multiple budgeting apps, cancel every subscription, cut every enjoyable expense, promise themselves they'll never spend unnecessarily again. And for a few days, it works. Then reality happens. Life gets busy. Motivation disappears. The plan feels exhausting. And eventually, they quit. Not because they're incapable, because the system wasn't sustainable. This is why simplicity matters. The best financial system isn't the most advanced one. It's the one you can consistently follow. And that's where the next framework comes in. Imagine getting paid on Friday. And by Monday, you're already feeling anxious about money again. Not because you spent recklessly. Not because you're irresponsible. But because every dollar arrived without a job. And when money doesn't have a purpose, it tends to disappear. That's exactly what this framework helps solve. You may have heard of something called the 50/30/20 rule. But don't think of it as a budget. Think of it as 3 simple buckets. Bucket number 1. Needs. These are the things life genuinely requires. Housing, groceries, utilities, transportation, insurance, the essentials. Ideally, around 50% of your income goes here. Bucket number 2. Wants. Entertainment, dining out, hobbies, streaming services, the things that make life enjoyable. Ideally, around 30%. And bucket number 3. Your future. Savings, emergency funds, debt repayment, investments, the things that make life easier for future you. Ideally around 20%. Now here's the part most people misunderstand. These numbers do not have to be perfect. If your needs currently take up 65% of your income, that's okay. If your wants are higher than 30% right now, that's okay too. The goal is not perfection. The goal is awareness. The goal is intentionality. Because the moment you start telling your money where to go, you stop wondering where it went. And that simple shift creates an incredible feeling. Control. Before we finish, I want to tell you something that might surprise you. Getting better with money is not really about money. It's about behavior. Think about 2 people earning exactly the same salary. One person never checks their finances. The other spends just 10 minutes every week reviewing where their money went. 5 years later, their incomes may be identical, but their financial lives can look completely different. Not because one person was smarter. Not because one person got lucky. Because one person consistently paid attention. That's the real secret. Financial success is rarely one giant decision. It's usually hundreds of small decisions made consistently over time. And that's great news. Because anyone can start making better decisions. Including you. Starting today. Before you leave, I want you to do 3 simple things. First, open your banking app and review your last 30 days of spending. No judgment. Just awareness. Second, write down your monthly income and divide it into 3 categories. Needs, wants, and future. Don't worry about perfection. Just get a clear picture. Third, choose one habit to improve this week. Only one. Maybe cancel a forgotten subscription. Maybe cook at home 1 extra day. Maybe check your account every morning. Small actions become habits. Habits become results. And results change lives. If this video helped you see money differently, subscribe and join us here at the Capital Beacon. Because with every video, we're turning complicated money topics into simple actions you can actually use. And if that sounds valuable to you, you're in the right place. Now I want to hear from you. What's your biggest money struggle right now? Saving? Overspending? Budgeting? Or simply not knowing where to start? Leave a comment below. I read every single one. And your answer might inspire a future video. In our next video, we're diving into one of the most important skills you'll ever learn. How to build your first budget from scratch. Even if you've never budgeted before in your life, you won't want to miss that one. Until then, this is the Capital Beacon. Simple money, smarter life. See you in the next video.